although we have gone live. It's a few minutes before go live, so I'm just checking in. We have a few minutes ahead of time, coming to you with Yoga Intermission from Vermont at Salt and Sand Studios. Today's Yoga Intermission, Great Pumpkin Batman, is cold enough that our decorative pumpkins are freezing their little ridges off. And it looks like we are good with sound and vid. Thank you for that. And we're going to hang out here just for a couple of minutes, maybe with a little cup of tea. I know we definitively have a couple folks joining us today. One is taking a short intermission of the intermission, which is awesome, making time. That's the beauty of it. Making time, even though you can't stay for the whole class, is fantastic. Helps our day, helps others' days too. We've got the heat on full. We are working, for me today, using a couple of blocks, which you might not have at home. So cushions or books can serve. You can also use toilet paper rolls, assuming those are not in scarce commodity. At the moment, we're winding down about 60 seconds before we start. I'm working today also with a cushion. This is a very favorite and special cushion of one of my dear friends and students. And also a blanket or a towel will serve as well. So as soon as I can see someone on board with us, which is not yet, we still have 2 more minutes to go, I will get moving. If you are watching this as a recording, thank you. Great to have you practicing. And know that it's about 2 minutes till we start, so you can fast forward a little bit. Today, as we are working skeletal alignment, I'm going to go ahead and sit actually not on my cushion in favor of a pelvic release. I wish I should have brought my glasses so I can see far enough to know whether anyone has jumped on board. We have another 1 minute to go. Once again, my name is Karen, coming to you from Salt and Sand Studios in central Vermont. If you're ever out and about and have quarantined, feel free to drop by if you're normally far away. We're here specifically on YouTube so that folks can practice even if they don't have the funds to practice. This is a donation-only class, Yoga Intermissions. Try this at home. 50 minutes, roughly. The video started a little bit early last week and this week in order to ensure we are situated. I'm just going to take one more check, see if we have anyone on board. And we are going to go ahead and go live. So find a cushion, a bed pillow, whatever it might be, and situate it so that it is a few inches in front of your sitting bones, and place your feet on that cushion and the soles of the feet together. And then you're welcome to bring the hands to the ankles or the shins, whatever feels okay for you. We're just going to tilt the tailbone a wee bit and extend the spine. This begins to reset the pelvis a little bit. See if you're hanging on within the thighs. If you can release a little bit, maybe close the eyes. Draw the tailbone a little down. Belly button in. Collarbone's a little wide. Chin bone, your jaw just tilts downward a little bit. The mouth is slightly open. Find your breath. Welcome to our Great Pumpkin Batman. It's skeletal alignment. Take a big, huge breath in through the nose and release it out the mouth. Another long, long breath in. Just to let it go. Third time's the charm, releasing any tension. Notice the toes. See if you're squeezing them together. Maybe you can loosen them. Maybe you even twinkle them about. Relax the feet as if they are opening like a book. Draw your attention to the calves and shins. Maybe there's some softness you can bring there. The knees, the inner thighs, the adductors, the outer thighs, abductors. And what about the hip creases? Can those settle a bit? Tailbone and sits bones like a tripod, stabilizing you on the earth. Belly drawing in so the spine extends just that much more. And rather than hunching forward, we press the shoulder blades behind as if we're pressing them against a wall. One hand comes to your heart. The other one follows it and the palms press together. Take a big breath in through the nose. Release it out the mouth. And consider why you came to your mat in this moment. And whatever that reason, whatever that purpose, we'll share it around in our space, like we're swirling it around like a nice, beautiful Halloween fog, creating a space for ourselves, safe haven, where we practice. We'll celebrate using the sound of Om if you'd like to join in. It's not required, but if you would, we'll take a long, full breath in all the way down to the tailbone. Let the eyes flicker open. And before we move into a full warm-up, we're going to go ahead and stand at the front of the mat because today is about the skeletons. So take a moment with some ease to find your way to a standing posture. Good morning. So at the front of the mat, you're going to find mountain pose. Yeah, I have a lot of layers on today. It's kind of cold. So in mountain pose, the feet are about bony hips width distance, and the bony hips are on the front of the body, not the sides. The feet are parallel to the outer edges of the mat. The hands drop by the sides. Now it's pretty natural to shift the hips and pelvis forward, to lock the knees, to hunch the shoulders, or to shift the whole top of the body forward. That's not what we're looking for here because mountain pose sets us up for so many of our postures. So speaking of skeletal alignment, and happy Halloween, and it's so cold out that the ridges from my pumpkins are freezing out. Hands by the sides. We're working to keep the hips square to the front of the mat. Take a moment to breathe in. And as you breathe out, press the belly in and drop your tailbone a little bit. Now, if you're like me, and many people are not, you may have a slight lordosis or extra curve at the low back, which causes low back pain. For a variety of reasons. It doesn't have to, but it can. But for some people, they're constantly tilting the pelvis forward, which means they're bringing lots of energy into the quads. So we really want to align knees over ankles, hips over knees, hips square to the front of the mat, shoulders over the hips, and a nice long neck, rather than scrunching the neck this way or broadening the neck this way. We're going to tuck the chin backward just a little bit. If the hands don't feel right, palms facing forward, that's okay. The fingers might curl naturally. So before we start to warm up, we're going to think about and acknowledge the fact that this is a position that is an orientation for most of our postures. So it includes our sun salutation, which is your sunrise, sunset. It includes any of the first warriors that are back bent. So crescent warrior with a bend in the front knee. Warrior one with the back heel down. And also our knee down lunge. All of these things, the hips are aiming to be square to the front of your mat. Where that changes and what we will practice today is moving into warrior two, triangle pose, side angle, where the hips are opening. So really the orientation of this practice today is the skeletal alignment relative to the spine, the hips, and the posture. So we'll find our mountain pose and move into our warm-up. Breathe in, sweep your arms wide, high overhead. Breathe out, palms together at your heart, samasti to he. Pause here. What's the belly doing? Draw it inward and up, like it's clicking up a couple notches of your spine. Inhale, arms drop and lift high. This time, softly bend your knees for a forward fold, hinging at your hips. Use the belly a lot. Hands come through the heart, forward fold. Head is super duper loose. Maybe you shake it and nod it. Inhale for a halfway lift. Hands can come to shins. Hips are still square. Let's stay here for a moment. This is not unlike your downward dog in that you're pressing the thighs behind you, reaching the sits bones up toward the corner of the room where the ceiling and the wall meet. But you're also gathering the belly in to flatten the spine and reaching the shoulders toward the hips. And rather than shifting the gaze up, it is straight down. Exhale, release and fold. Knees might stay bent. Press the floor away, root your eyes, arms will sweep overhead. Exhale, hinge at your hips, soften your knees, forward fold. Once again, halfway lift, long flat spine. Exhale, hands release. Inhale, press the floor away, rise to standing. Arms sweep wide and high, or maybe only into cactus shape. Exhale, hands to your heart. And one more time. Sun will set, arms lift high. Exhale, hinge at your hips, soft knees, belly in, forward fold. Inhale, sunrise, press the floor away, arms sweep high. Sorry, I started at the end instead of the beginning. Exhale, forward fold, sunset. So you got an extra sunset from that. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands plant. We're going to step back, finding a high plank. High plank is the same as standing. Not really, because you're really working some different parts of the body, but essentially you want your plank to be like you were standing up. So the bum is not lifted, the hips are not shifted downward. We're working toward long, steady, powerful state, energy between the shoulder blades, belly in and up, reaching the heels behind you. Fingers a little bit like claws. Think about, for today, Halloween, witchy fingers, witchy poo. Drop your knees to the mat. I have actually already warmed up enough whereby I can remove my top layer. So feel free to pause in a tabletop. You could even work your way into cat-cow shapes. Find your breath with whatever you are doing, whether that's stillness or movement. And today, we're going to work more neutral spine to the cat shape, feeling the alignment. So remember, the hips are squaring to the front of your mat. Wrists are below your shoulders, knees below the hips, and the feet are only as wide as your knees. And maybe we just take a minute to feel the texture and the temperature of the mat, tapping the tops of the feet on the mat. Now we're going to scoop the belly in, drop the tail, press the floor away with the knees, the tops of the feet, and the fingers. Drop your head for that black cat shape. And rather than move into cow, we're going to move into a neutral shape. Tabletop, belly in. Exhale, round, scoop the belly in, cat. Cat on a tabletop, move to your tabletop. Cats love to go on the tabletops. And one more time, cat, breathing out, and neutral spine tabletop. We're going to shift the hips toward the right heel, drawing long as if you're kind of stretching like a kitty cat, and then the hips come over toward the left heel. We return the shoulders back over the wrists, tabletop. Taking that circle 2 more times, hips toward the right heel, left heel, forward over the wrists. One more time. Keep the belly active. And the other way. As you're finding this, see how the body shifts. See what the skeleton does. Feel how the muscles are supporting the skeleton. And if you do not activate the navel toward the spine, you're doing less to support your skeleton, which means you're putting a lot more stress on the skeleton. Come back to your tabletop. We'll take the left foot behind the left hand and the right foot behind the right hand. A deep forward fold with the belly on the knees and thighs, ragdoll, elbows bend. Nod your head, shake your head, press the floor away, unroll to standing. Arms can drop by the sides back to mountain pose. We're very purposely making this happen so that we can heel toe the feet in if they are wider than your bony hips. Situate yourself. And we're going to find our way into a crescent warrior. Shifting weight into the right foot, slowly peel onto the toes of the left foot, and then step the left foot back as far as you can on the mat. Working to keep the hips nice and square. For me, I need a little balance work, so I'm moving the right foot out to the right. We're working that back leg as long as we can get it, and rather than the shoulders shifting forward toward the knee, they're shifting toward the hips. Often that makes us squish the shoulders up by the ears, so let's drop the hands by the sides. Belly comes in and up. We're working the back heel away, the back kneecap toward the quad, activating the left glute and keeping a nice bend in the front knee, ideally a 90-degree bend. The belly's got to work to help tuck the tailbone or at least keep the tailbone pointing straight down so that we are safe in the low spine. The hands by the sides help the heart open without putting extra work into the shoulders. Hips are square. Here is your crescent. If you decide to lift the arms overhead, it's the full expression of crescent warrior, heart opening up. We're going to bring the hands to the heart, drop the back knee to the mat, Anjaneyasana, knee down lunge. You might notice that it caused you to shift the shoulders forward. Untuck your back toes. Scoot your right foot forward if need be to bring the front knee right over the ankle. Now I can press energy into the heel of the front foot and the top of the back to extend the hip flexor on the left side. But guess what? We want to do the same thing as when we were standing, which is to protect the low back. SI joints really can get angry and inflamed if we're spending a lot of time shifting the belly forward and down and the tailbone back. So we're really working the belly in and up. And again, this is a back bend with the hips square to the front of the mat. So hands can come by your sides, or maybe they're in a cactus shape. So you can feel the shoulder blades squeeze toward each other. Check in with the shoulders. Mine tend to shift forward. It's in part because I have to work the belly. Full expression of Anjaneyasana, arms lift overhead. If you're grabbing at the mat with your toes or your front foot, you're going to loosen that. And here we keep the hips square to find a twist, left arm forward, right arm behind. Maybe you don't twist very far. We really want to keep the hips square, so that might mean only a tiny twist of the navel around the spine. Fingers nice and wide. Reach, reach, reach toward the back of the mat. There's a tendency to shift forward again here. We'll deepen the twist, left hand down, right arm high. Huge breath in. As you exhale, the right hand comes down to the mat. You might notice the hips are shifting around, so allow them to square. Just for a moment, extend the front leg. You might glide the hands back, lift the toes off the mat. Maybe it works for you to send the sitting bones toward the heel. Shift forward. Hands creep in front of the front foot. Tuck your back toes under. A little runner's lunge just for a moment before we ensure our yogi who is taking half of an intermission gets both sides. Step the back foot up to meet the front. Inhale, rise to standing. Arms will float high, sunrise. Exhale, soften your knees. Draw the belly in, forward fold. Halfway lift, long flat spine. Exhale down to the mat. Press your way back to standing. We'll move our way back into Crescent Warrior on the other side. Hands can come to your heart or your hips. Weight shifts into the left foot. We make sure hips are square, belly is working. Come to the toes of the right foot and step the foot way to the back of the mat. Adjust if you need to for balance. Reach the right heel behind, square the hips. Check in that the shoulders are over the hips. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Back kneecap coming toward the quad. Right glutes active. Hands by your sides for your back bend. Cactus is fine as well. Maybe the arms float overhead. Full expression of Crescent Warrior. Check in with the belly. If it's dropping forward and down, you're going to lift it, and then you're going to work the front of the body all the way to the sternum, nice and long. Hands come to your heart. Slowly lower the back knee down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Check out where things are. Hips, are they still square? I need to move my left foot out to the left and a little forward. Back toes are untucked. Hands will drop or come into a cactus shape in the arms. Once again, lots of energy in the glutes on the right side, the heel of the front foot and the top of the back foot. We continue to lift from the top of the pelvis all the way to the sternum. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Arms float high overhead if that's accessible for you. Shoulders rotate so the pinkies spin toward each other. Anjaneyasana, big breath in. Exhale, sink a little deeper into your front knee. Another big breath in. And we move into our twist, keeping your hips square. So don't overdo it to start. Right arm forward, left arm behind. You're aiming for the gaze to be over the left hand, looking at the thumb, but it's okay if it doesn't. And rather than shifting and contorting and torquing the hips, contort and torque the hips, Peter torque, you're going to go ahead and keep them square to the front of the mat. Big breath in. Reach forward and back. Exhale, right hand down, left arm high, deepening the twist. We retain the squaring of the hips. Big breath in. Exhale, left hand down to the mat. You might need to shift around. We're going to go ahead and lengthen the front leg, lift the toes off the mat, and maybe the right sitting bone comes toward the heel. Just finding a little bit of a different opening in the back of the left leg and the right quad. Shift forward. Hands crawl toward the front of the front foot. Back toes tuck, a little runner's lunge. We're still squaring the hips here. Reach the right heel behind and imagine that you're drawing the left hip back in space. Huge breath in. Exhale, step into a forward fold at the front of your mat. Inhale, rise all the way to standing. Arms sweep high overhead. Exhale, hands to your heart. Hands move to the hips. Difference between our crescent, our warrior one, our Parsvottanasana, our Anjaneyasana, knee down lunge, our Ardha Hanumanasana half split, and warrior two is that all the ones at the front of that statement, hips facing the front of the mat. Warrior two is actually a hip opener versus a back bend. So instead of doing what we would normally do, which is step back to find warrior two, we're actually going to go ahead and turn our bodies and place them at the center of the long edge of the mat. We're going to step the feet outward till they're shoulders width or wider. This is the posture, hip-wise and shoulder-wise, belly in, that we are aiming for triangle pose, side angle, extended side angle, warrior two. So how do we get into warrior two? The back foot becomes parallel to the back of the mat. We spin on the heel of the front foot and face it forward. The hips are still facing to the side. So if that has changed where your feet are, the heel of the front foot can be roughly in line with the arch or the big toe mound of the back foot. Then we bend our front knee, float our arms outward. We're in warrior two. It's like magic. Secrets to warrior two. We often tend to shift forward, or the bum starts to come out behind us. Tuck, tuck, tuck down. The hips are opening this way. Energy into the outer edge of the back foot. Fortify the left leg and imagine that the thigh is moving inward this way. And in the front foot, we're sending energy forward with the knee, downward with the heel and the ball of the foot, and away from us with the spinning of the front thigh. Arms draw outward. Yeah, we got ourselves a warrior two. If we want to reverse it, the bottom half of the body doesn't change. We flip the front palm, lift it high, and shift the heart toward the sky. Sometimes that makes the belly drop forward. We're still drawing the belly in and up and opening the heart toward the sky. We're going to return to a warrior two. Extend the front leg. Bring the hands to the hips so we can take this to the other side. Spin on your front heel so the toes come a little bit in. And the foot now is parallel to the front, what was the front of your mat. Spin on your left heel, point the toes toward what has been the back of your mat, bend your front knee, and now we are facing for our warrior two on the opposite side. Secret little pumpkin tip, okay, pumpkin, is that the knees love to go back toward the opposite side, and you're really working the abductors and the adductors and the quads and the glutes and the hamstrings, all those muscles to draw the knee away from the midline. Again, we'll flip the front palm to reverse the warrior. Opening the heart, keeping the hips open, pressing energy into the outer edge of the back foot. Return to warrior two. We're going to work our way into a triangle on the other side. So hands come back to the hips. Extend your front leg. Bring your left foot parallel to the short edge of the mat. Point the right toes toward the front of the mat. Come back into warrior two here. Knee moving away from you. Tailbone down, belly in. Arms out in a T. To move into triangle, we extend the front leg. For some, you might spin the back toes a little bit more toward the front of the mat. And we keep the shoulders and hips in the same line. Rather than sending the booty behind us, we're going to reach the front arm forward, 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 forward until it can't reach anymore. These left muscles are reaching beyond the back of the left foot, but they're not beyond it. They're just sort of sending their energy there. As far as you can go before the right hand drops and the left arm floats high. So we're working to keep the bum, the hips, and shoulders in the same plane like they're between a pane of glass. It's probably a little bit more like pose camp than it is like a flow, but no flow was promised. So I think I'm in line with the description. We're going to rise back up to warrior two. Bring the hands to the hips, knee bends. Spin on your front heel, turn the toes to the long edge of your mat. Spin on your back heel. We're coming back to warrior two, now facing the other way. Adjusting if you need to. It's okay. It's not perfect. It's a practice. Lengthen your left leg. Dial your right toes 10 degrees toward the short edge of the mat in front of you now. Reach the left arm as far forward as you can before you drop the hand and float the right arm high. Trikonasana triangle. My shoulders don't quite work the way they used to, so I have to work pretty hard to open up the heart and lift the right fingertips like it's a magic wand above me. We bend back into the front knee, return to warrior two. Hands to the hips, extend the front leg. Toes spin to the side of the mat. Prasarita Padottanasana, our wide-legged forward fold. Belly tucks, thighs are fortified. We're pressing away from the earth and reaching the heart forward. You might keep your hands on your hips, or maybe the fingers are in your hip creases. We're finding a nice long spine. Face the earth with your face. And this might be enough for you. I'm checking because my feet are not exactly aligned. And if it feels okay, you can fold all the way down. I'm going to borrow Nancy's favorite cushion to do that with the hands under the shoulders. Press the floor away to lift the hips high. Thighs pressing behind you. Head and neck are like ballast. And the sitting bones are helping to lift the weight of the body upward. And here you might stay, or maybe you spin the fingers to the opposite side of your mat and walk them through your feet. You also might find it feels really good to walk the hands toward one foot. Still working though to keep the hips square. Maybe the hands walk to the other side. Maybe you find even greater upside downness with a tripod. Hands return to the hips. Lift halfway up. Bend your knees, bring your heels inward. Take the hands to the inner thighs so the thumbs sort of point toward your hips. And we're going to find a little movement, the left shoulder toward the right knee. Keep the belly in and up. Rise back up, press the thighs away, the right shoulder toward the left knee. We'll take that 2 more times. We'll come back to center, tuck the tailbone a lot, squeeze the hamstrings and the glutes, squeeze your adductors, your adductors right on the insides of the thighs, rise up. Your stance might be a little wide, mine is, so I'm heel toeing a little inward. So my knees are pointing away from the toes. The tendency to shift forward, and if this is too much torque on your knees, you might turn the toes a little more toward the front and tuck the tailbone. And I'm talking quite a bit here, so we're not really hopefully paying much attention to the quads, but if your quads are starting to burn, really work the belly to help. Arms come outward. Inhale, rise up, extend your legs, arms lift into a V, 5-pointed star. We're going to bend the right elbow, bring the hands to the back of the neck, lift around to the elbow with the left hand and see if we can gather the fingers and the elbow in while tucking the tailbone and keeping the thighs nice and strong. I'm going to inhale, come back down, knees bent, cactus arms. Draw both heels off the mat, tuck your tailbone a lot. Fingers like you mean it, like they could shoot sparkles toward the sky. Sink a little deeper. Draw your heels to the mat. Inhale, rise up, 5-pointed star. Exhale, bend the left elbow. Fingers come behind the neck. Right hand takes a hold of the left elbow. And maybe you sneak the elbow a little closer to the head. My left shoulder is a little grumpy. Okay, and come back to cactus arms. Sink into the knees. Lift the right heel off the mat. Drop your tailbone. Keep the belly working for you here. Bring the heel down. Stay low. Lift the left heel off the mat. Sink down. Drop your tailbone, belly active. Left heel comes down. Both heels reach from the mat. Sink down a little bit more. You got this. Heels draw down, rise back to your 5-pointed star. Woo! Hands to the hips. We face the back toes to the front of the mat and step forward. Nice. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, maybe a swan dive. Long, long belly and back. Forward fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale for a forward fold. We're going to return to Crescent Warrior for our final standing posture. Inhale, float all the way to standing. Arms lift high. Exhale, hands by your sides. Now remember, Crescent Warrior keeps the hips square to the front of the mat. I'm going to shift into the right foot. Come to the left tippy toes. Maybe a little extra lift from the quad and the belly for the knee to come up toward the heart. Keep tucking the tailbone. Shift the heart forward, the left leg behind. Crescent Warrior, footsteps as far behind you as possible. Find your balance. Stack the shoulders over the hips. Tuck your tail. Deep bend in your front knee. Left kneecap toward the quad. Left glutes active. Hands by your sides in cactus or overhead. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Hands draw toward the hips. Extend your front leg and hop your back foot halfway up the mat so the soles of both feet can come to the mat. This is one of the trickier hip squaring postures. So you're going to maybe make a little space left to right between the feet. And as you can see, right toes are pointing straight to the front of the mat. Left toes are sort of toward the upper left corner of the mat. Parsvottanasana, pyramid pose, can be super tricky because what happens is the hips often shift this way or sometimes over shift this way, torquing the back knee. Most often the shift is this way. So we want the hips to start square, parallel to the front of your mat. Fingertips come into, for today, fingertips come into the hip creases. We work the belly in and up and the heart forward as we lower halfway down. This might be exactly where you stay with your hands on your hips. As you draw the energy up the front leg and out the sitting bone, working that hip behind you without trying to press too much energy into the back leg, which will shift the right hip more toward the front of the mat. If you have blocks or books, they might be handy here. Finding yourself folding a little bit deeper over your leg, aiming really for a long spine. So if you have to super round to get there, don't bother about getting there. It's a direction, it's not a destination. So we continue to press energy first into the ball of the right foot, then the heel of the right foot to find that right hip moving back. Pyramid pose. Very slowly, we're going to step up to the front of the mat. Re-square the hips if they had come unsquared. Inhale, press your way to standing, arms lift high. Exhale, palms together at your heart. Feet, bony hips, distance or maybe a little bit wider. The weight shifts into the left foot. Come to the right, tippy toes. Lifting the knee of your skeleton and all the stuff with it. Upward toward the heart. Shift the heart forward. Right leg sweeps behind. You might have a micro bend in your front knee. We return to our Crescent Warrior. Really active in those right glutes to support the low spine. Hands to the hips. Lengthen your front leg. Step the back foot halfway up. We prepare for the posture of Parsvottanasana. Squaring the hips. They love to go this way. We're going to undo that. Fingertips can help in the hip creases, belly in and up. Reach the heart forward and down. Really press into that left hip so it comes behind you. Maybe you only stay here. This is plenty to work with if that's what the body calls for. Maybe you can lower even farther, but work to keep your back nice and long. And if you're watching, which is not required, you might note that over time, I'm going from the highest height of the blocks to the mid height of the blocks. Because with breath, I'm able to find a little bit more extension. Gently, the back foot steps up to meet the front. We inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale for a forward fold and step back into a plank one final time, where we will drop the knees, untuck the toes, take a moment to move into a hero pose. This can be with the shoulders right over the hips. If you practice normally a full heroes and it's accessible to you at this time, feel free to take it. I am purposely not to be supporting the skeletal system in a way that is kind to the low back for those of us who need it. Some folks will be more mobile and can find it. We're going to take a little tiny back bend here by taking the hands behind the body. Maybe they're on the soles of the feet. I'm going to put mine just outside my feet and shifting the tailbone forward. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the hamstrings. Maybe you can come back a little farther and draw the shoulder blades together. This is as far as I'm going, given what my low back is doing today. Belly in and up, long on the sides of the body. Collarbone smile like a giant jack-o'-lantern emoji. We use the belly on a breath out to draw the shoulders over the hips. And we'll move our way into a seat to find a twist. We're going to take our half Lord of the Fishes pose. So the right heel is just under the right thigh. And we take the left leg outside the right thigh. It's a little twist over the left shoulder. Sitting up nice and tall to find a twist. Remembering that in this posture, as in the others, you're really working for the hips to be, the pelvis to be sort of parallel to the front of the mat. So you're working for the sitting bone to be down further. I'm not as stretchy as I thought today, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put my left foot in front of my left sitting bone and take my twist that way. It is the observant yogi who's kind to their body and notices what the body is calling for, or when the body is saying, halt, who goes there? Knock it off. I might be in the great pumpkin patch, but I don't need the twist to be that deep. Inhale, draw back through center. We'll take advantage of this posture, bringing the right shin parallel to the front of your mat as much as possible. We'll go ahead and find stacked logs. If you happen to have a half lotus, feel free to take that here. But we're working this time the outsides of the hips in addition to the hip creases and a little bit of the adductors, depending on how tight your thighs are. And working to have parallel shins and sitting up nice and tall. And my body is saying, oh, why didn't we do this before we did the twist? That's my body. Typically, you take your twist after your back bend. We're going to unwind from this and take a Janu Shirshasana, extending the left leg onto the mat and taking the sole of the right foot inside the left thigh. Square your hips to the front of the mat again. That might shift where your right knee goes. I'm going to go ahead and take a block, take a little prop. You might take a cushion, place it under your knee if it's off the floor so you can actually relax into that leg. We sit up super tall, maybe a little bend in the left knee. On an exhale, belly gathers super in, and up to give us the real estate and the power to fold. We're activating the left leg as if we're drawing the hip backward. Use the belly to rise back up. That whole sequence, all those great pumpkin shenanigans, we're going to take to the other side. So the left heel comes in front of the right sits bones. I'm keeping my right foot on the mat with the heel aligned also with my right sits bones. Left hand on the knee, right hand behind, sit up super duper tall. Open the collarbones and the heart, exhale, twist, but keep the belly drawing in and up. We're not aiming to twist the shoulders or the hips. We're aiming to rotate as if you're wringing out the belly and the spine. Inhale back to center. And we'll take stacked logs again, working the left shin to be as parallel to the front of the mat as possible. And the outer part of the right heel or ankle comes above the left thigh. Maybe a half lotus. If you haven't, we're sitting up super tall. In your half lotus, your right heel would come into your hip crease. And if you even have the flexibility, you could then reach around with the right hand to take a hold of the right ankle or foot or toes. The leg on hooks for Janu Shirshasana. Sole of the left foot inside the right thigh. This is our final seated posture. I'm placing Nancy's block under my knee, working my hips square. So I had to draw my right sitting bone back a little bit for that. Big breath in. Exhale, hands walk forward. Inhale, use the belly to lift yourself up. Legs extend, or the soles of the feet can come to the mat, whichever works for you. And find your way all the way down to the mat. I'm going to take a rounded spine. You're welcome to take a long, straight spine. And if your feet are not on the earth, slide them there. Glide them a little closer to your sitting bones. Lift the hips off the mat. Shift them to the right, allowing the knees to drop to the left. And depending on how your hips work, knees aligned, one knee in front of the other. And a gaze over the right shoulder, right hand can flop outward. Find 3 beautiful tension releasing breaths. Using the power of your system to soften. Letting go with the mind and the breath. Kindly to your spine, you'll return it in its entirety back to the mat. Using the soles of the feet and the belly to shift the hips over to the left this time. Drop the knees to the right. Gaze, if it works for you, is over the left shoulder and the left hand flops outward. And finally, we return the spine to the mat. Shift your hips so the spine is as straight top to bottom as that would normally be. One final posture, that could be virtual legs up the wall, knees into your heart, or maybe Supta Baddha Konasana, or feel free to go directly into your shavasana posture. 1 to 2 breaths wherever you are. And allow the legs to extend on the mat, the feet to flop outward. Hands are by your sides, palms face up. Maybe sneak the shoulder blades a little closer to the hips on the same side for each. Final resting posture, a place where we integrate the practice, where we allow everything to loosen and let go. Huge breath in from the toes of your skeleton all the way to your cranium. Great big pumpkin sigh. Shavasana. Increase the breath. Inhale and exhale. Bring movement into the body until you can bend your knees or roll onto one side. The knees into the heart, maybe your hands can connect to the knees, as if you're floating above this incredible, this magnificent human vessel. Notice this circle that it makes. Maybe it's a little bit pumpkin-like, a little bit jack-o'-lantern-like, but it is this never-ending, universal line of energy, circle of life. Using your top hand, press yourself back to a seat. Legs can cross in Sukhasana, easy pose. Hands, once again, meet at your heart. We close practice as we began, celebrating the beauty of the body, the breath, and the spirit, and the history of the practice itself to help us improve ourselves. Big breath in through the nose for a chant. Thumb knuckles connect right between above the eyebrows. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you for joining live or on video. It is Halloween, the day of live and recording this. I have Halloweened my hair and had a lot of fun today with our skeletal alignment. I hope you did too. If you can donate, certainly please share so others can benefit from the practice of yoga, and I will see you soon. Don't forget, we are available as well on Friday nights for spa yoga on Zoom, and we'll be introducing more Zoom classes over time. Thank you. Salt and Sand Studios coming to you from Vermont. Closing down.